Let's talk about something that quietly affects millions of people every single day: access to healthy food. And it's a problem that might be way closer to home than you realize.
Just imagine that for a second. What if the nearest real grocery store was 25 miles away? I'm not talking about some fancy specialty shop. I mean the place you have to go to get the basics. Fresh fruits, vegetables. For millions of people, this isn't some hypothetical question. It's just their reality.
So there's a term for this, and you've probably heard it: a food desert. Now, the official definition really boils down to two things. First, it's a low-income area. And second, it has really limited access to food that's both nutritious and affordable. So instead of a proper grocery store, you'll find neighborhoods just packed with fast food places and convenience stores. The ones selling mostly processed stuff.
Okay, but what does low access actually mean, like in the real world? Well, it's actually pretty specific. If you're in a city, it means you're more than a mile away from a supermarket. But get this, in a rural area, that distance jumps to more than 10 miles. Just think about that. That is a massive, massive barrier if you don't have a car or reliable transportation.
So, just how widespread is this issue? How many people are we really talking about here? Well, the data shows that a pretty staggering 12.8% of the entire U.S. population lives in one of these low-income, low-access areas.
And look, 12.8% might sound like just another statistic. So let's put that in perspective. That's nearly 1 in every 8 people in the United States. This is not some small, niche issue. We're talking about a huge national problem that affects tens of millions of people.
And this goes way beyond just being an inconvenience, right? This has severe, literally life-altering consequences. Because when the only food you can easily get is highly processed and low in nutrition, it leads directly to really serious health problems. We're talking increased risks of obesity, higher rates of diabetes, a greater chance of heart disease, not to mention the constant stress of just not knowing where your next healthy meal is coming from. That's food insecurity. And here's a really crucial point. These areas, they don't just pop up randomly. The data is super clear on this. They are overwhelmingly found in low-income neighborhoods, and they disproportionately affect Black and brown communities all across the country. So all of this brings us to a really important question. The word we've been using, desert. What does that make you think of? Something natural, right? Something barren that just exists. But what if that's not really the right way to look at it? What if that's not the whole story?
Yeah, in fact, a lot of experts and community advocates are now pushing back on the term food desert. They're saying a term like food apartheid is actually much more accurate. And why is that? Because it shines a light on the systemic, the structural causes behind these inequalities. The point is, this didn't happen by accident. It was created.
So let's break down that difference, because it's a really big shift in thinking. Food desert makes it sound passive, maybe even natural, like a geographic feature. But food apartheid, that term points the finger directly at man-made systems. It says these conditions are the result of policies, of economic decisions that actively create and then maintain this injustice.
But listen, this isn't just an explainer about a problem. It's also a story about incredible resilience, about innovation. So let's shift gears now and look at how communities are actively fighting back, how they're sowing the seeds of change and creating their own solutions from the ground up.
And there are 3 really powerful, community-driven solutions that are really leading the charge here. And it's important to remember, these aren't some top-down corporate initiatives. No, these are solutions built by the community for the community. So what are we talking about? Well, first, you've got mobile markets, and they are exactly what they sound like. Grocery stores on wheels, a lot of times in old buses that have been converted. They bring fresh produce right into the heart of a neighborhood. Then there's urban agriculture. This is all about transforming unused city spaces, think rooftops, vacant lots, into actual productive farms. And finally, you have community gardens, which create these amazing shared spaces where residents can come together and grow their own fresh, healthy food. So, here's the big takeaway, the really crucial point. Whether you call it a food desert or food apartheid, what matters is understanding that the issue isn't just about a lack of stores. It's so much deeper. It's about a whole system of barriers, economic, social, you name it. And that's why the best solutions, the ones that are really working, are the ones that empower communities to tear down those barriers for themselves. And that really leaves us with one last thing to think about. The next time you run to the grocery store, just pause for a second. Think about how far you had to go. Think about the choices you had when you got there. And ask yourself, What does food access really look like in my own neighborhood?